Is 7 a.m. and a half, and it's now time for the Morning Watch with Mr. Stokeley Marshall. Today, the Morning Watch is brought to you by AIM Financial Corporation Limited. AIM has a loan for any purpose. Visit any of our branches in Mandeville, Kingston, Spanish Town, Portmore, May Pen, Ocho Rios, and Montego Bay.
In need of a loan? AIM Financial is the place to go. We have loans from $20,000 to $3.3 million. Get a loan to pay school or college tuition, medical expenses, bills, fix up your house, buy furniture and appliances, repair or buy a car. And when you're done, take a vacation loan. AIM has a loan for any purpose. Call AIM today. You won't find a better deal elsewhere. Guaranteed.
Listeners to Love 101 FM are advised that the views and opinions expressed in this program are not necessarily those of Love 101 FM.
Hello and welcome to the Morning Watch on Love 101 FM. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. A special welcome to our listeners on love101.org. And if you are overseas and on the move, US listeners can access us at 712-832-8001. And if you are in the UK, 0330-332-6541, or join us via the Love 101 FM app that can be downloaded from the Google Play Store or the Apple Store. You can also join us on Love 101 FM Facebook and YouTube Live in the main watch. The Cybercrimes Act and hate speech. And in the second watch, changing our attitude towards a woman's period. For our social media question, we ask, how has our culture affected your attitude towards a woman's period? Share your responses on our Facebook or YouTube, Love 101 FM Jamaica Live, and also WhatsApp comments and voice notes to 876-9973-125 using the hashtag The Morning Watch. We'll share your comments later on the program, but first, here's I quote.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. So, today's I quote says, "It's not that your most important work is meaningless, it's that your most trivial moments are also significant." And this is from David Jeremiah.
Yes, Jukal, good morning, sir.
Good morning, how are you?
I'm very well. This I quote reminds me of a scripture passage that says, whether we eat or drink, whatsoever we do all to the glory of God.
That's right.
It doesn't matter how trivial the movement is.
Mm-hmm.
It is significant. The main watch will be back after this break.
Why you can't afford to miss the Morning Watch.
I love it. Follow great sardine, flavor. Great sardine with the chef and the beginner. Follow the one with pepper, that's the winner. Shop on supermarkets, everybody sell it. You all of them nice. Pass the part, me push it.
Great sardines follow the better flavor.
Every time my son send the liquor bottle for me, I have to go sit down and walk all day like me have nothing else to do. No, sir, you don't fear do this.
Tired of spending all day at the wharf to clear your barrel?
Driver, turn up that liquor bit for me there.
Starting May 1, use contactless clearance to clear your non-commercial shipments and avoid the long wait. Call Jamaica Customs today at 876-922-51408 or email contactlessclearance@jca.gov.jm.
Oh, God goody. Me go call customs and learn about the contactless clearance. Hook me up.
Less waiting, more convenience. Try Customs contactless clearance today.
Here's why you can't afford to miss the Morning Watch.
I love listening to the morning because topics are discussed and issues are highlighted that are of major importance, which in turn notify me.
The Morning Watch, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays.
I like listening to the Morning Watch. I find it very informative. I find it very interesting. The topics that are covered are very, very wide.
The Morning Watch, thought-provoking, insightful, current. Listen for the probing questions with attorney at law Stokeley Marshall and the in-depth discussion with Reverend Dr. Dallin Toussaint. On Thursdays, the Morning Watch is brought to you by Bashco. Bashco, the store that gives you more. The Morning Watch, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. The Morning Watch is on the family station, Love 101.
Get ready for another inspiring show this Testimony Tuesday inside Alive 1 to 5 October 24, packed with inspirational stories and island-flavored music. 1:45, we bring you the brain testing synthesized Listeners Week edition on the prayer blast at 2 o'clock as we bring in the prayer bells of heaven. 2:15 inside the evidence, we hear the testimony of Maxine Brown, part 2, a stage 4 cancer survivor who said she died in the operation room, but God brought her back to life. Then at 3 p.m., we go behind the pulpit for part 2 with the anointed pastor and founder of Digging Deeper and Kinteet Nations Ministry, Pastor Grayson Ball Osborne. All this and more come alive 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. October 24 with me, Sarah, and the Chirpy One on the family station, Love 101, celebrating 30 years of music, family, and love.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. It has been recommended by a joint select committee that the Cyber Crimes Act of 2015 be amended to include hate speech as a type of communication deserving of punitive treatment. And the section that they would wish to amend is Section 9. That stiffer penalties should be imposed for malicious communication of such. But the question is, what is hate speech? So far, we have online Reverend Basil Hanson, founder and president of MTM TV, and he is also the first vice president of ACCM. And good morning, Mr. Hanson. How are you, sir? Reverend Hanson.
Good morning,
How are you
Stokeley.
hearing me, Reverend Hanson?
Yes, good morning. Thank you.
Now, first of all, sir, I find this intent, and first of all, let me just remind listeners, ACCM actually means the Association of Christian Communicators and Media. Yes, I should have said that when I was introducing you, sir. So I have taken a look at Section 9 of the Cyber Crimes Act. We should be having online with us today Marcus Goff, attorney at law, but we don't have him just yet. I took a look at Section 9 of the Cyber Crimes Act, and in my view, and I don't purport to be the only person with a view, but in my view, this section looks quite fine in terms of covering any communication that would be considered inappropriate. So I'm wondering why the idea of amending it to include hate speech. I'm also not seeing where they have defined hate speech. If there is such a proposed definition, I would love to hear it. But your thoughts, Reverend Hanson, please.
Thank you for having me, Stokeley. As I ponder about, what is happening in the world at this time, I can't help but remember when this election was held somewhere about 2020. Why time flies so fast, I don't even quite remember. But just before the election was held.
You mean the last general election,
yes,
sir?
Yeah, this one. Yeah, this last one. It was
2020.
2020. Yes. Just before the election was held, there was a murder in Clarendon. There was I think it was a JLP activist or somebody connected to the JLP was brutally murdered at his gate in Clarendon. And at that time, the Prime Minister made a statement, and I took note of it. He said they were thinking about implementing measures to put hate crime, to make hate crime an issue. And I asked the question, which one of the crime is love crime? Because I don't know of any crime that is not hate crime. Any crime that you commit, it has to come from a place of hatred. All right, so I don't know the love crime. But what I discovered, there's a system out there that is abnormal, being fueled by the LGBTQ people, and they want to implement an abnormal system in a normal world. And therefore, in order for you to implement that abnormal system, you have to label the present system, and anything that you label, you disable it, So if you begin to label people, you disable them. So if you look at places like Canada, for years you would thought that Canada was very tolerant and they never opposed certain things from the LGBTQ community. But in recent times, we see 1 million march in Canada. We don't hear that on news, But what is happening now is that the abnormal system is now implemented in Canada. And so when you label hate speech and hate crime, what you do to people is disable them. So I don't agree with you, but I'm going to be fearful of saying anything. I'm going to be fearful, especially the hate speech. I will not agree with you, but because you have labeled me or labeled people who don't agree with your thing, hate speech and haters, because you rightly said they don't define hate speech, people will now become afraid. They're not going to speak even though they don't agree with you. And so you disable them. You basically weaken the system. And that is one way you can implement the abnormal system, because what will happen, the majority of the people will not agree with you, but they'll not say anything. And if you don't say anything, then the abnormal system will eventually take over. Right?
They
and that
will
is
not
what
say
happened
anything.
in Canada.
They will not say anything
No,
out
if you
of
don't
fear.
say anything.
Out of
Yes,
fear.
if you, once you're afraid, but if you're afraid, you're not going to say anything. And that is what hate speech does. Once you label me hate speech, I am going to be afraid to speak because I don't know what you can, define as hate speech. What is hate speech?
Let us try to bring in.
Anybody could say that your speech is hate speech.
Understood. Only because of time, Reverend Hanson, and I see where Counsel Marcus Goff is now with us, but just a simple internet search on the definition of hate speech includes the following: abusive or threatening speech or writing that expresses prejudice on the basis of ethnicity, religion, sexual orientation, or similar grounds. And sexual orientation is a technical term that includes the right to a same-sex marriage. We are almost upon a break already, but Marcus Goff, we didn't have you initially when we started, sir. Good morning.
Morning to you, Stokeley.
Your thoughts in terms of the idea of amending the Cybercrimes Act, Section 9 in particular, to include an offense in relation to hate speech. Your thoughts, sir?
Well, I think we definitely have to ensure.
Well, actually, sir, I'm going to ask to pause one moment, Marcus Goff, because I see where we are already upon a break. Listeners, please stay with us. We'll be right back on the Morning Watch.
Do you
You have questions about the availability of medication from your drugstore pharmacist? Ask your pharmacist. Contact the NHF to find out more. The time by the NHF is
7:15 and a half.
From generation to generation, Jamaicans have depended on J&B Bank to make the pride and joy of providing a safe place for their families possible. Now, with no processing fees and no down payment mortgage options, you can open the door to your own sweet home, a legacy to hand to your next generation. Visit jnbank.com to get pre-approved today. J&B Bank will help you find a way.
Love 101 invites you to listen to Encounter, presented by the Jamaica Association of Full Gospel Churches, Thursdays at 10 p.m. Every first Thursday, listen for words of upliftment from the Lighthouse Assembly with Bishop Rowan Edwards. Every second Thursday at 10 p.m., listen for a word of encouragement from Burgess Ministries International. That's Women of God in Service with Reverend Dr. Elaine Richards. Every third Thursday, receive words of strength and power from Praise Deliverance Ministry with Senior Pastor Fitzroy Carr. Every fourth Thursday, Reverend Leonie Samuels of the Richmond New Testament Church of God in St. Mary shares words of hope. For fifth Thursdays, it's words of inspiration from the New United Bible Way Church of God with Reverend Dr. Jasmine Brown. That's Encounter, presented by the Jamaica Association of Full Gospel Churches every Thursday at 10 p.m. right here on the family station, Love 101.
In need of a loan? A Financial is the place to go. We have loans from $20,000 to $3.3 million. Get a loan to pay school or college tuition, medical expenses, bills, fix up your house, buy furniture and appliances, repair or buy a car. And when you're done, take a vacation loan. AIM has a loan for any purpose. Call AIM today. You won't find a better deal elsewhere. Guaranteed.
Excuse me, sir. How much patty you are buying?
Me no know.
Me think you should buy 5.
Why? Why me fi buy 5?
Could you see patty have a cheesy surprise?
When you buy 85 juicy patties, you can cheese it up for free.
Yeah, all 5 patty full of cheese. And it's anchor cheese, you know. And did I tell you it's only for the month of October? So you better run and go down there fast. Right now. Cheese! Cheese it up. Upgrade 5 patty to cheese for free today. At any juicy patty island-wide.
Conditions apply.
Looking to own a home and put down your roots? Join us at the Sagicor Bank Mortgage Boutique this Saturday at our Orchard and Black River branch, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Learn how to reduce your carbon footprint at home with recycling, going solar, landscaping, and so much more at our Orchard branch. Apply for your mortgage on location and get a competitive mortgage rate. 0.25% off commitment fee, on-site pre-qualification, $20,000 gift voucher for appliances, a Sagicor Bank Star Service account with $5,000 for your child, plus on mortgage approval. You could be one of 3 winners of a patio set, living room set, or inverter AC with free installation. The Sagicor Bank Mortgage Boutique this Saturday at our Orchard and Black River branches, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Conditions apply. Authorized under Section 58(3) of the Betting, Gaming and Lotteries Act.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. We are in the first watch, the main watch. Our guests are Reverend Basil Hanson and Marcus Goff. And Marcus Goff is an attorney at law. Reverend Basil Hanson is founder and president, MTM TV, and first vice president of ACCM, which is the Association of Christian Communicators and Media. The topic is the Cybercrimes Act and hate speech. Mr. Goff, just as a reminder, asking you for your thoughts, your views in relation to the declared need or intent, I'm not sure if it's a need, but the intent to amend the Cybercrimes Act, Section 9, to include hate speech, Mr. Goff.
Yes, Mr. Marshall, thank you again. Right. I think it is certainly
Please forgive
important that.
me. My
Mm,
apologies, Counsel. It is Dr. Goff. You are Dr. Marcus Goff. Please go ahead.
all right. Thanks. Right. So yes, it will be important to have hate speech defined. So it's not wide and broad and unduly vague. Because of course one would not want in that legislation to have any restriction on the freedom of expression, which is a fundamental human right and is really important for even the enjoyment of other human rights. So freedom of expression would have to be safeguarded, and so the criminalization of hate speech would have to be restricted and limited so as not to infringe freedom of expression. So that would mean that, therefore, just merely expressing a divergent opinion, right, from someone else, or from criticizing someone else's opinion would not necessarily promote a hate speech, but hate speech would more be in line with what we've seen in certain progressive countries, looking at things like incitement of violence, encouraging and certainly causing harm to be met upon certain persons because of their opinions and perspectives and so forth. That would then be something that would be justified to seek to restrict, but certainly to restrict the free flow of information and the free expression of and communication of thoughts should certainly be preserved in any sort of criminalization of speech.
Dr. Goff, let's take a quick look at Section 9, subsection 1, paragraphs A and B of the Cyber Crimes Act, because I think if we look at what is there, I'm asking myself, what is there to amend? Okay, paragraph A reads, well, let me go back to Section 9.1 proper. Section 9.1 reads, a person commits an offense if that person, A, uses a computer to send to another person any data, open bracket, whether in the form of a message or otherwise, close the bracket, that is obscene. We know what obscene means. That is obscene, constitutes a threat. We know what a threat is, or is menacing in nature. The law has already enumerated or indicated many times what we mean by menacing. Well, at least attorneys would have an idea as to what that means. It goes on to say, and we now go to paragraph B, intends to cause, so the word intends is there, intends to cause or is reckless as to whether the sending of the data causes annoyance, inconvenience, distress, or anxiety to that person or any other person. To me, paragraph B is quite wide. In fact, some would argue that maybe it's a little bit too wide. And then subsection 2 then goes on to read, an offense is committed under subsection 1, regardless of whether the actual recipient of the data is or is not the person to whom the offender intended the data to be sent, which is also pretty wide. So whoever reads it and deems that this, for example, has caused them distress or anxiety, can lodge a complaint with the police. Subsection 3 goes on to say, a person who commits an offense under subsection 1 shall be liable upon, and it mentions upon summary conviction before a resident magistrate, which we now know, of course, is the parish court. It goes on to say, in the case of a first offense, a fine not exceeding $4 million or imprisonment for a term not exceeding 4 years, or both such fine and imprisonment. If it's in the circuit court, that would be, for example, we're talking about what we call the Supreme Court. In the case of a first offense, a fine or imprisonment for a term not exceeding 10 years. So they haven't said what the fine is. Of course, in the Supreme Court, typically they don't limit themselves to a fine or for a term not exceeding 10 years. And there are other penalties, sir. So, Mr. Goff, I don't know what your views or your thoughts are. I haven't gone through every particular limb of the section, but do you, in your view, think that maybe what is already there on paper in the statute is enough? Why hate speech?
I think it's very wide. It sounds wide. Certainly, again, what we understand within freedom of expression is that, because someone else does not like your expression. And persons may, of course, have varying levels of discomfort and annoyance with that expression. That would not be justifiable to suppress that expression within the freedom of expression. So I think that to have words such as those, annoyance and so forth, discomfort, I think that would probably be in need of amendment. Because it sounds very broad. Sounds like it would really be amounting in some regards to censorship, and essentially inhibiting persons from sharing their thoughts and their perspectives, which is not something that we can tolerate in a constitutional jurisdiction. So I definitely think that those words and contexts would need to be revisited, and then I think those fines, as you say, definitely sound hefty in comparison with other kinds of crimes, other kinds of penalties, right? That we have on our statute books. Those fines sound high.
They sound quite high to me indeed. Reverend Hanson, and before I bring you back in, Reverend Hanson, Dr. Goff, words like distress. I mean, what is distressing to one person may not be distressing to another person. So there's an element of subjectivity, in my opinion, in this section already.
Definitely. So I mean, for example, we have a culture of in song and other verbiage, right? Criticizing politicians, sometimes very strenuously, and so it might very well, as I say, cause distress and annoyance, right? Words of that nature to persons, because of what is being said, and that alone should not, in any jurisdiction, in any country at all, should not be giving rise to criminal prosecution and conviction, So we have to be mindful in creating new crimes. We don't trample on people's rights, even while we're trying to, protect persons from, what might be deemed to be hateful speech, which can lead to, some further crimes. We can't be trampling on people's freedom of expression.
Exactly, and when it comes to criminal statutes, generally speaking, the principle is that you must be as specific as possible. It can't be something too general. Reverend Hanson, sir, we are about to wrap, but to revisit some of the comments you made earlier, but in addition, having heard the discussion with Counsel Dr. Marcus Goff, any thoughts before we wrap, sir? Additional thoughts?
Yes, I agree, Stokeley, that some of those words we really need to look at the annoyance and distress and all of that, But I want you to take note that there's none of those words are labeling any section of the population. It's broad, as you said. When you say hate speech now, you are simply labeling a set of people.
And forgive me, Dr. Goff, as well as Reverend Hanson. What I looked at earlier was what was in the bill, the actual statute itself, which is signed off, which I'm seeing on the Houses of Parliament website. It does speak to that is obscene, constitutes a threat, or is menacing in nature. But paragraph B was trimmed down. And to me, it already has words, which is a very interesting word here. It says, with the intention to harass any person or cause harm, or the apprehension of harm. And what do they mean by harm here? Go ahead, Reverend Hanson. And
Right.
just pointing that out to you as well, Counsel Dr. Goff. Go ahead, Reverend Hanson. But the fines are the same.
Stokeley, right. So my concern is the labeling of people. Remember, in the recent pandemic, there were those who did not agree with the vaccines. They were labeled as anti-vaxxers, conspiracy theorists, and all kinds of names, right? And they were punished just for not agreeing with something that they would have to inject in their bodies. And I'm saying it's the same thing when you begin to label the people as hate speech and hate crime, you silence the people. And to implement the abnormal system, you don't have to agree with them, They just need to silence you. I don't have to agree with them, but once I don't say anything, they can have their way. And as somebody says, evil strive because good people keep their mouths shut. The intention when you label something is to disable it, is to cause it not to speak, cause it to be fearful, because even though you know the thing is wrong, you don't want to say anything because you might get yourself into trouble and people might see you a certain way. And that is what has happened. And if you look at the world that has managed to successfully do these things, that's what they do. They label the people. Hate crime, hate speech. I don't know any such thing as hate speech and hate crime. I know that people do things that are wrong, and when you do things that are wrong, you need to be dealt with according to the law. But we don't want to label it.
We haven't seen the definition of hate speech. That would need to be seen. And nothing, you can't have
they're not interested in the definition, Stokeley. It's not the definition they are interested in. They are interested in labeling you.
Of shutting you up.
Because if they label you, they silence you.
They are interested in shutting you up.
Yes.
Yes.
Because once they do that, they could shut you up out of fear.
Yes.
Because and now you become the minority, because the majority of the people will not agree, but the majority of the people will keep silence. So the few that will speak will become the minority. And
we are totally out of time, Reverend Hansen. We're totally out of time, Reverend Hansen, but I totally agree with you, sir, and I agree with Dr. Goff. But we have to leave it there this morning because we're completely out of time. We're sorry we had you on, so we didn't have you on initially, Dr. Goff, but thank you for your contribution. Listeners, please stay with us. We'll be right back in the morning.
Time by Jam Bank is
7:32.
As our family grows, our home internet needs have grown too.
And now, with Flow's fiber-fast internet and smart Wi-Fi coverage, we're always connected in any room at home.
With Yada Nord Plus, get gig speed, fiber-fast internet, smart Wi-Fi, plus unlimited mobile on the go. All for the special offer of only $6,999 plus GCT a month. Fiber-fast internet and smart Wi-Fi coverage inspired by you. Visit a Flow store today. Conditions apply.
Need a qualified counseling psychologist to help you navigate life and challenges? Call Andre Allen Casey with over 10 years of experience in resolving relational issues, therapeutic interventions for couples, families, and individuals. Andre Allen Casey, licensed associate counseling psychologist with offices at 20 West Kings House Road, Kingston 10. Open Mondays, Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturdays, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Telephone or WhatsApp 876-360-6594. Or email AndreAllen_Casey at yahoo.com. Andre Allen Casey, counseling with a difference.
NIS pensioners, avoid the wait. Get your NIS pension straight to your bank account. It's easy. Simply visit the Ministry of Labor and Social Security's website, mlss.gov.jm, or the nearest NIS office and collect the direct deposit application form. Then complete the form and submit it along with supporting documents to the NIS office nearest you. Avoid crowds and long lines. Get your money when you want it. The National Insurance Scheme, always working for you.
Jamaica and its workforce are advancing quickly. Life-changing opportunities are arising. You need training and support. We are the Renewed Heart NSTA Trust, committed to providing new and emerging skills training and opportunities. Come to Heart. We'll help you claim your place in the workforce of the future.
In life, the more you have, the more you have to lose.
The more you love, the more you worry. The more you own, the less you sleep.
The more people rely on you, the more you have on your mind.
I have peace of mind,
knowing that whatever I own
and whoever I care about are covered by the very best.
With Sagicor Life and Advantage General, get life, health, and general insurance to help you protect what matters most.
In need of a loan? Aim Financial is the place to go. We have loans from $20,000 to $3.3 million. Get a loan to pay school or college tuition, medical expenses, bills, fix up the house, buy furniture and appliances, repair or buy a car. And when you're done, take a vacation loan. AIM has a loan for any purpose. Call AIM today. You won't find a better deal elsewhere. Guaranteed.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. Let's take a look now at the newspapers to see what Jamaicans and others are saying and doing. We have here among the lead stories in the Gleaner Online, reckless. Transport Minister Daryl Vaz has roundly rejected as fiscal indiscipline. Suggestions from opposition leader Mark Golding to remove the hedge fund gas tax and cap the special consumption tax SCT on fuel amid blinding inflation, and the story continues. We also have among the lead stories in the Gleaner Online, step aside. Opposition leader Mark Golding says the Integrity Commission's inability to certify Prime Minister Andrew Holness's statutory declarations for a second straight year does not bode well for Jamaica's image, and that story continues. We now turn to the Jamaica Observer. Among the many stories in the Observer, we have Airbnb lockout. And I'm not sure if it's referring specifically to Airbnb, but maybe short-term rentals in general, because it goes on to read, court bars short-term rental operation from gated residential community. There have been a lot of concerns about short-term rentals in residential communities, in the gated residential communities, and in communities generally, actually. We also have in the Jamaica Observer, attorney punches holes in witnesses' testimony in Beachy Stout murder trial. We now turn to Loop Jamaica News. We have among the stories in Loop Jamaica News Online, off-duty pilot accused of trying to shut down jet engines mid-flight. And another story we have in Loop Jamaica News Online, fire at Jamaica Post headquarters central sorting office. Well, that was several hours ago. Those and many other stories in our various news sources. Of course, coming up next, we'll have for you feedback from our Facebook, YouTube, and WhatsApp question, which is, how has our culture affected your attitude towards a woman's period? If you haven't done so yet, leave a response on our Facebook or YouTube, Love 101 FM Jamaica Live, and also WhatsApp comments and voice notes to 876-997-3125 using the hashtag The Morning Watch. We'll be right back. Morning Watch will be back in a moment.
1:45, we bring you the brain testing synthesize listeners big edition on the prayer blast at 2 o'clock as we bring in the prayer bells of heaven. 2:15 is that the evidence. We hear the testimony of Maxine Brown, part 2, a stage 4 cancer survivor who said she died in the operation room, but God brought her back to life. Then at 3 p.m., we go behind the pulpit for part 2 with the anointed pastor and founder of Digging Deeper and Kinteed Nations Ministry, Pastor Grayson Paul Osborne. All this and more will come alive 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. October 24 with me, Sarah, and the Chirpy One on the family station, Love 101, celebrating 30 years of music, family, and love.
Okay.
On the next edition of Campus Connection, we will turn the spotlight on the unsung heroes in our education system. Do you know how valuable our ancillary workers, security guards, office and canteen staff are to the smooth operation of a school? What keeps these individuals motivated despite the challenges they face? What can parents, guardians, and other stakeholders do to ensure that these persons are recognized? Let's talk with our esteemed guests as we delve into these issues on Tuesday, October 24 at 5:30 p.m. on the Family Station, Love 101, celebrating 30 years of music, family, and love.
It's the month we celebrate our heritage and heroes in Jamaica. On The Rock, we're celebrating a couple heroes in the Bible. This week is dedicated to Peter, originally called Simon, one of the 12 disciples. Yes, the guy who denied Jesus 3 times is one of our heroes. Why, you may ask? Let's discuss it. Tuesday, October 24 on The Rock. Join host Bishop Harold Steve Burr and guests Silton Townsend and Judith Morgan as they discuss the topic Peter. That's The Rock, Tuesday, October 24 at 10 a.m. here on the Family Station, Love 101.
On the next edition of Campus Connection, we will turn the spotlight on the unsung heroes in our education system. Do you know how valuable our ancillary workers, security guards, office and canteen staff are to the smooth operation of a school? What keeps these individuals motivated despite the challenges they face? What can parents, guardians, and other stakeholders do to ensure that these persons are recognized? Let's talk with our esteemed guests as we delve into these issues on Tuesday, October 24 at 5:30 p.m. on the Family Station, Love 101, celebrating 30 years of music, family, and love.
Another Word of Worship Wednesday is coming your way inside Alive 1 to 5, October 25, packed with worship, fun, and information. Stick around for the brain testing synthesized at 1:45. Prayer blast will come your way at 2 o'clock. More prayer, more power. 2:15, we feature Chris Tomlin as our worship artist of the day. At 3 p.m. inside the Drama House, we bring you a continuation of Conflict of Passion. All this will come your way inside Alive 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. This Word of Worship Wednesday, October 25, with yours truly, Sarah and the Chirpy One, on the Family Station, Love 101, celebrating 30 years of music, family, and love.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. Let's join Jukal for a look at how our Facebook and WhatsApp friends answer today's question. How has our culture affected your attitude towards a woman's period? Jukal.
Yes, we're urging our listeners to continue to send their answers to 876-997-3125. But for now, there is none. So you can jump into the second watch.
Okay, no responses so far, Jukal?
Right, no responses so far.
Well, we go right into the second watch. There is an indication that Period Awareness Day is being celebrated, and some people, well, of course, a woman having a period is a natural thing, and some will say that our culture treats these things as a problem in some form or shape, and it is something that girls begin to experience, once they hit puberty in those teenage years. And unfortunately, in some cases, due to financial constraints, some females are not able to afford the supplies that they need to have to, as it were, navigate what for them is often a new situation in their young teenage years. And our guest today for this segment is Shelly Ann Weeks, Executive Director and founder of Her Flow Foundation. Good morning, Shelly Ann Weeks. How are you? Shelly Ann Weeks? Hello? Well, we are already upon the time for the break. So what we will do at this time is take the break and then return in a moment. Please stay with us on the Morning Watch.
Sardine with the chef and the beginner. Follow the one with pepper, that's a the winner. Shop on supermarkets, everybody say
sardines, follow the better flavor.
The time is
7:45 and a half.
Suzuki have something for them on them, and woman them. Suzuki roll the road. Purchase a Suzuki Vitara, Red Vitara or XL7 and roll the road with Suzuki. And get 1 year free down, valued at $100,000. $100,000. What are you waiting for? Test drive your dream Suzuki today. WhatsApp us at 816-465-3647 and follow us on social media at Suzuki JA for more details. Offer available at Stop Flash, only at Stewart Automotive Group, South Pembroke, Kingston, and Iron Drama Bay. Conditions apply.
Take a good look at your Sagicor Bank credit card. Do you see the Acropolis of Athens? The picture-perfect beaches of Crete? Use your Sagicor Bank credit card and you could discover the magic of Greece. Get a chance to win a luxury trip for two to Greece when you spend with your Sagicor Bank Gold and Platinum credit card until November 25, 2023. The more you spend, the more chances to discover Greece. Conditions apply. Authorized under Section 58.3 of the Betting, Gaming, and Lotteries Act. Visit Sagicor.com to learn more.
Cinero's Chromium Plus is an all-natural herbal product formulated specially for people with type 2 diabetes. An elevated sugar level in the blood will lead to renal failure, damage to the brain, and amputation of your toes or feet, damage to the heart, stroke, ECT. Cinero's Chromium Plus will reduce the level of sugar in the blood, taking it down to normal, and protect you. To get your Cinero's Chromium Plus, call Halfco Herbs and Extracts, 876-540-8871.
It's the super saving sales event you don't want to miss. Now on at Home and Things. Save on just about everything in store. Tiles, bathroom fixtures, faucets, vanities, lighting, windows, doors, home decor, and more. Get ready for the holidays with super savings on all your construction finishes from Home and Things. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and now TikTok. It's the super saving sales event at Home and Things. Old Hope Road and Constant Spring Road. Jamaica Bills with Home and Things.
Once upon a time, there was a girl named Kay. She loved to dance and play. One day at school, she got very ill, and Mom was left with an unbearable bill. It would be easier if Mom was prepared. With School Companion, 80% of the bill is cleared. Medical care for children is a must for as low as $2,400 per month. Make unbearable medical bills go away. Sign up for Sagicor School Companion today.
Every Wednesday at 11 a.m. on Love 101, you're invited to listen to Good Morning Minister, a weekly feature where government ministers will speak about the development in their various ministries. Listen for the updates and have your questions and concerns ready to share inside Good Morning Minister as the Minister of Information, Robert Nesta Morgan, and a guest minister or agency head discuss the issues and take your questions and suggestions. Get ready to call in during Good Morning Minister, 11 a.m. on Wednesdays, right here on Love 101, the family station.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. We are in the second watch and we're having a discussion with Dr. Shelly Ann Weeks, Executive Director and founder of Her Flow Foundation. We had a challenge hearing you earlier, Dr. Weeks, but we now have you on. The topic, of course, is changing our attitude towards a woman's period. Well, first of all, was there an attitudinal issue in the first place, Dr. Weeks?
Good morning, and thank you so much. I'm not a doctor yet, but I'm working on it.
Oh, my apologies. I
as it relates,
thought you were being referred to as Dr. Weeks, but go ahead.
Yes, I know. All right. So, as it relates to our attitude towards period, it's not just specifically period, but if you realize some of the things that we practice as a culture, as it relates to how little girls are raised in comparison to how boys are raised, it brings a lot of shame and stigma to the female body. And I'll give you an example that we have where we say you cannot dispose your menstrual product in a regan. You have to do so much more to it. You have to tie it up. Somebody told me that she burned hers and burn it. And I'm like, it's if you were to just drop and bruise your certificate to clean the blood off your knee, you no problem putting that in the regular garbage. But for some reason, we think that menstrual blood is so much more dirty and so much more destructive that we have to take extra steps to dispose of it. That's the first thing. The other thing that we do culturally is that we demand teach our girls to take their underwear off and wash it right away. We don't do the same thing with boys. So little boys get to take off their underwear and put it in the wash, and it is washed with the rest of them.
Miss Weeks, I want to stay on the topic.
Yes, sir.
Changing our attitude towards a woman's period. So you mentioned the issue about the disposal of the, can I call it, the sanitary equipment? So
you can refer to
you
that
mentioned
equipment.
that one. Yes. The next one. Any other? I mean, you went on to speak about underwear. What about the underwear and the period per se? The period.
No, that is a part of it, because the way we see female is very different from how we see male underwear. We wear underwear, and so the is not just this toward. It's the stigma towards female hygiene overall, which is also periods. That is why I speak of it as a culture.
What is the stigma towards female hygiene? I'm not aware of the stigma, but what is the stigma?
I just told you.
I'm not
we demand.
I'm not understanding what you're
saying. Are you
saying.
hearing me clearly?
Explain again. Actually, we are not hearing it so clearly. We are trying to work with the audio, but sometimes you cut out a little bit here and there.
Okay.
But if you could
I hope this is better. Is this any better?
Slightly, and speak slower. Speak slower.
Okay. Let me just clarify. What I mean when I say a stigma is that if it is that we are teaching little girls that their bodies are so unclean that as soon as they remove their underwear, they must wash it. It cannot go in the laundry with the rest of the laundry. She now internalizes that and grows up to be a woman who is very insecure about her body. And so the difference between that and how we treat little boys is very different.
I see it as teaching her to ensure that she remains clean at all times. What's wrong with that? Cleanliness is next to godliness, What's wrong with that? We should teach the boys to wash their underwear all the time too. What's wrong with her washing her underwear right away? I'm just trying to understand.
The message is that if she doesn't wash it right away, she's doing something wrong. And that message is incorrect, because there's no reason for her to wash it immediately. None. It can be washed with the rest of the laundry the same way the boys' underwear is washed with the rest of the laundry. But let's talk about period poverty. You mentioned earlier in your introduction that there are a lot of women and girls in Jamaica who just don't have the funds or the access to menstrual products when they need it. And that is a real problem in Jamaica. With my foundation, we have donated over 7 million products already to schools, government-run homes, individuals, community organizations, clinics, to ensure that Jamaicans have the supply. And we haven't even scratched the surface. There are still a lot of Jamaicans who don't get access to the products. And with the prices of the products continuing to go up, it is affecting even more and more.
Okay, so the cost of the products is an issue, but that is not necessarily an attitudinal issue, or do you still see that as somewhat of an attitudinal issue?
It does, because there's never any discussion about the price of the product. There's no regulation around the price of the product. The marketplace gets to set it as high as they want to, because usually this is not a product that is something that is brought to the fore because of the nature of the product. People who can't afford the product, they're not showing a lot of sympathy and empathy, because they are seen as worthless. Because how can you not fill this need? How can you not take care of this? Yeah, woman, why can't you do this for yourself? I've heard comments to the effect of, oh, well, you know, if she can put on makeup, she can afford to buy her own menstrual products. I know that you have on makeup today, it doesn't mean that you bought it today. It means that today you put it on. And that should not be a reason for you not to get sympathy or even help because you have on makeup and you have this need.
Actually, we are still having a slight challenge hearing you sometimes, but it could be a bandwidth issue. Maybe if you turn off your camera,
okay,
and if you have an avatar up for your face, it might assist us to hear you a little bit better, because there'd be less of a bandwidth issue. Maybe you could try that. But okay, so in terms of the cost of the menstrual products, it sounds like you're asking for some sort of subsidies, some sort of subsidy to be able to afford the menstrual product. I hope we haven't lost. Well, have we lost Shelly-Ann Weeks? I think maybe in her trying to navigate the StreamYard. Oh, I think she's back now.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay.
And the camera is off.
Yes, and I think we're hearing a little bit better now, because yes, less of a bandwidth problem if there was a problem. So I think you're asking for some sort of government subsidy or other subsidy for the menstrual products. Is that what you're asking?
No, actually, what I would like to do, there are certain groups that I have targeted specifically as the ones who are most at risk and in need. So, for example, I believe that the PATH program should include in it benefits for their recipients, menstrual products. If they don't have the access to money for lunch, then we can assume that they also don't have money for menstrual products. And I think that the PATH program, they should include that.
Which is not very different from what I'm saying. In other words, you would like the government to, in some way or shape or form, assist. And if you're going to be identifying the PATH program, then clearly that would be a form of assistance.
You're correct.
Although that is not necessarily an attitudinal issue, but it will at least.
No, I'm not asking for the government's intervention where the attitude is concerned. Attitude is an individual, personal thing. And that's the reason why, as a part of my advocacy, we try to have conversations with people, open up dialogue so that we can see how we can change the way we see this particular thing. So that is not something that the government can solve. What I'm interested in the government stepping into is ending period poverty, especially for those who are most at risk.
You call it period poverty?
Yes, I don't call it that. That's what it is called. Internationally, it's period poverty, defined as persons who are unable to access or afford menstrual products when needed.
Okay. In terms of any attitudinal issues towards a woman's period, before we wrap today, because there's never enough time on the morning watch and we had a challenge getting any final thoughts you want to leave with us?
I just want us to encourage all of us to have open conversations about period. Talk to your children about periods and not just the girls. It is important that we understand that period is a sign of good health, and as much as it can feel like an inconvenience at sometimes, it is necessary for us if the human race is going to continue. So we really have to embrace it as something that we need and we can support with those who have it. And for those who don't have it, we can help to ensure that the conversation continues in a positive way.
Shelly-Ann Weeks, I want to thank you for sharing with us this morning on the Morning Watch. Thank you for your time and thank you for your thoughts.
All right, take care.
And thank you, listeners, for being with us. Join us again tomorrow as we look at other topical and controversial issues. Visit the Love 101 FM YouTube channel and Facebook page for this and all other Love 101 FM programs. Listen to the Morning Watch on our Love 101 app. Download it today and stay connected to the family station, Love 101 FM, the #1 gospel station in Jamaica. This has been the Morning Watch. Thanks to our producer, Kathy Gale, and to our guests. I am Stokeley Marsh, hanging back Love in the Morning with Jakal.